Trying to like go out and the vegan, vegetarian options available like aren't always great.
I wouldn't feel justified in judging somebody for doing that.
It's straight murder in my mind.
Some certain foods are tied to culture. They're tied culturally to...
So I am a hypocrite. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I know it. I'm aware.
Take the chicken to their own house, kind of basically like...
What do you think about animal abuse and people who abuse animals?
I'm really horrified whenever I hear that people abuse their pets or like just abuse animals in general because they haven't done anything to you. They are innocents.
So you don't like it, and part of the reason is kind of because the animal is innocent.
Sure, yeah.
Horrible. I have rescued animals from abuse. My husband volunteers at the local animal shelter like 3 days a week for many hours. Yeah, it's horrible. Human pieces of garbage.
Why is abuse bad, and what do you consider to be abuse?
Like physically harming animals, like depriving them of food, nutrition, elongating any kind of suffering.
Something so innocent, just the way that they're treated, can so unfairly alter the rest of their lives.
You don't want to alter another individual's life who's innocent and like hurt them in some way. That's sort of why it's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Obviously, there's physical abuse, there's neglect. Don't take them to the vet as often as they should. Don't feed them the right foods or even just attention that they need.
So it sounds like we have like all the way from not giving attention, not letting them sort of express themselves, all the way up to like a physical, like hitting them or something like that. Okay. So sort of like any harm, prolonged suffering, and deprivation all sort of constitute abuse to the animal.
Yeah.
Imagine a dog was walking by and I took a giant boulder and I just dropped it on the dog and smashed them and killed them.
Sure.
Just instantaneous death.
Yeah.
Would you say that was still abuse?
I feel like that is a step further than abuse. That's like literal, like, it's straight murder.
Straight up murder.
Straight up murder.
I consider it abuse because it was an intentional act on your part to harm the animal.
Harming the animal, depriving them, and even taking their life away, even if it's painless, if you are intentionally taking their life, all that sort of constitutes abuse, right? Okay, awesome. So there's one more question. How are you feeling so far?
So far, so good.
All right, so those are the first two questions. You still feeling good? I know these are weird questions. Okay, awesome. Do you financially support any sort of industries that systematically abuse animals?
No, not that I know of consciously.
Sadly enough, I know I do. Okay. And like I'm not a vegetarian and I'm not vegan. And so I do support monetarily the systems that are in place that abuse animals in that way. And I do try to spend my money in the directions where that isn't happening all the time, or at least, as much as I can believe that that's not happening. Yeah. So I try to, buy ethically sourced eggs and meat anywhere I can. But, obviously like the world and the system that we're forced to live in like doesn't always give me the option that I need to like make those informed choices all the time. And obviously the solution would just to be to cut out all of those things. And I am trying to cut back on my consumption of those things in my daily life. And I'm cognizant about making those decisions when I do. But still haven't gotten to the point where I have done that entirely. And yeah, now that you say that, it's like thinking about animal abuse now from the other side, where it's not just like our pets. And see where you went here. So I am a hypocrite. It's true. It's true. I know it. I'm aware.
Yeah. I was too for a very long time, for like 33 years of my life. So I understand. So do you eat fish, chicken, cows, eggs, milk?
I do.
Do you think in animal agriculture, do you think they systematically abuse those animals?
I think in some cases they do, yes. Yeah. But it's really not like so much cut and dry, because a lot of some certain foods are tied to culture. They're tied culturally to things that I'm familiar with. So it's in terms of like engaging with like my homeland and like my home country and whatever, like in terms of like home cooking and whatever, like we don't harm the animals that we eat, because I come from a country that like some people can kill their own like kind of goats or like chicken or whatever, but then it's usually like done in a humane, like these people raise these chicken and have affection for them, but then with the understanding that like we will consume this to nourish our bodies. So to that extent, I don't
Well,
So I don't like support. Yeah, I think like to answer your question, no, I don't support like organizations that harm animals, but also like to tie it into like nutrition and like nourishing like the human body. Yeah, I think that that's a more contested debate to have.
So you do eat sort of like eggs, milk, probably cows, pigs, chickens, the whole.
I stopped eating pig actually, and I rarely ever eat beef. I mostly ever just eat chicken. And when I do, I try to, buy it locally or, something that says pasture raised or local farmers or, whatever, as much as a brand, I don't know, like I don't trust the brand or, the marketing or whatever it tells me, but for as much as I can like make a decision standing there in a store.
Yeah, I think your instincts are correct there and to not trust the labels of like free range and stuff.
I know that there are always workarounds to that, like, when they say cage free, like, oh, they're roaming pastures. No, it just means that there's like a million of them stuffed in the floor of a large barn somewhere.
Yeah,
but
they open the door like once a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even like free range, typically they have think about like the size of an A4 sheet of paper.
Exactly.
Is about like what they have to like.
Exactly.
Obviously complicated stuff with culture. Almost every culture eats meat, sure. But just from the animal's perspective, right? Because we kind of said even if we dropped a boulder on a dog and killed them painlessly, right? That would be abuse, kind of by your definition,
Sure, yeah,
right?
because you're not even going to eat it.
So I guess if I ate the dog, would you say that wouldn't be abuse? Even if it's local, those farmers had to get their chickens from somewhere and they get them from breeders. So you have 50% of the chickens are female and 50% of the chickens are male. What do you think happens to those male chicks?
Oh, they get killed, certainly.
Right.
They straight up just toss them.
That's a good way to put it. Day one of their life, because they're never going to grow up to lay eggs, of course. They're just put on a conveyor belt and then dropped into a giant macerator, which is effectively like a blender.
Yep.
So they just get blended alive, fully conscious, like day one.
Yeah.
Going with your example, there is no like harnessable you can't rescue any part of that dog to consume. It's wasted. It's a waste.
Let's say I just go up to the dog with a gun, shoot the dog in the back of the head, painless death. I eat the dog. Do you think that I abuse that dog?
Well,
from the dog's perspective.
Yes, because shooting is different from taking let's say like slaughtering a chicken, for instance.
Even if it's local, these chickens have suffering bred into them. They grow very quickly. We sort of bred them to produce somewhere around 300 eggs a year, when in nature they do about 12 to 15. It's like the difference between like having your period like 12 to 15 times a year versus having it every single day, always.
Yeah.
And do you know like how old chickens tend to be when we kill them?
I would think probably less than a year.
It's actually 6 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's like we kill the animals at like a totally fraction of their lifetime. We essentially kill them when they're like toddlers.
I'm used to seeing people like kind of take the chicken into their own hands, kind of basically like do their own harnessing of that food protein, like that. So it's like harnessing in terms of like guns, like that's another debate altogether, because I'm not for using guns for anything. So if you're talking about abuse, yes, I think like using a gun is abuse to me.
How do the people kill the chickens in the example I guess you're giving?
Like basically like pluck feathers, kind of hold it over the thing and then like cut the head immediately.
So take
like
a
just
knife
kind
and
of
slit its throat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Like just decapitate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I could do it myself.
Let's say you had like a little male chick and they were like literally sitting in a blender. You're sitting there with your finger on the button of the blender and that male chick says, "Why are you doing this to me? Like what's the reason you're gonna like blend me alive right now?" What would you say to that male chick, do you think?
That I suck. I'm a horrible person. Yeah, just there's nothing I could say to justify my actions other than I'm sorry. And if I had to push the button, which I do, I guess, every time I buy eggs or eat meat.
Yeah.
So yeah. I know.
So do you have to buy eggs though?
No, I don't. And I probably maybe I won't anymore. Maybe the next time I go and reach for a carton of eggs, you will pop into my mind and you'll say, "There's a chick in a blender. Don't do it. Don't do it."
If there's any image I want you to take from this, is like literally a blender with a little chick in it, and just think of that every time.
Yep. As one who's had chickens before, and the thought of putting my chicken in a blender just kills me.
Do you think that would be abuse? I guess if I killed the dog in that way, if I just took a knife and sliced the dog's head off, do you think I would have abused that dog?
It's like you're talking about like a dog, which is not normally considered to be food. These are domestic pets. And so like, yeah, like in that context, no. But if we're talking about animals that I consider food, yes. In terms of like protein, for as long as I've known, that's been a source of like protein for me. And in terms of like how we harness that, like it's I wouldn't say it's not problematic, but also this is an animal I consider food, and I don't consider dogs food.
It sounds like kind of the thing that you think makes the difference is the individual who's harming another individual. The thing that seems to matter is how they view their victim, and that's the thing that makes the difference. If I victimize a dog and slit their throat, and I don't view the dog as food, then I've done something sort of wrong. I've abused that dog.
Yeah.
But if in my mind I consider that dog food and I slit their throat, then it's not bad.
If it was reared for that process,
yeah.
If it was reared, like raised and
let's
fed and all this stuff in order to eat, like, I mean...
So then you would say that dog wasn't abused then?
Objectively? No. Okay. Objectively, no. But being who I am as a person, as Mimi, I'd say yes. So objectively, no. I could be like, yeah.
I think you as a person answering yes.
Yeah, I think it's abuse, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a very like compassionate, empathetic person. What do you think would actually be holding you back?
If it was just me, I would probably be vegetarian and trying very hard to be vegan. My partner, not so much. If I was buying just for myself, then I would probably live that lifestyle. I'm trying. Every so often, I'm like, what do you think? Let's, try and dive into this. And he's like, no. And also like trying to like go out and the vegetarian options available like aren't always great.
The vegan options here are actually pretty good. There's actually an app that you can use called Happy Cow, and it just shows you every restaurant that has vegan options, everyone that's fully vegan. I don't think it takes a lot of discipline to cut those products out of your life. I think it takes a real emotional connection and understanding that these animals aren't things, they're individuals. They're not something, they're someone. And I think when you connect deeply with that, it becomes very easy because you can find the resources. There's like a billion YouTube channels.
I'm gonna download that app now.
Yeah.
Now that you've told me about it. Happy Cow.
I could give you a little like resource that you could look into. You eat vegan for 22 days, see if it's something that can fit into your life, that sort of thing.
I wouldn't feel justified in judging somebody for doing that if I know that that was the purpose that they did it for.
I'm not really interested in judging people for what they do. I'm more interested in, I guess, the victims themselves. So I'm interested in the chickens, the cows, the pigs. Maybe I'll just like give you just like a 1-minute overview of like what happens to pigs.
I don't really have that.
Okay.
I don't want to hold up my friends anymore, but I really appreciate it, and I hope I think that's really interesting. If you have like a QR
like
code.
a resource or something. I do actually have a QR code.
QR code.
Pigs, 80 to 90% of them are killed in a gas chamber where they die horribly, suffocating, and that's standard practice. With eggs, 50% of chickens, right when they're bred, they're either male or female.
Yeah. And
egg-laying
they're
hens.
called.
Exactly.
Yeah,
do you know how they call them?
So they snap their necks? Because I've heard of
not
that.
efficient enough because there's so many. So they actually put them on a conveyor belt and drop them into a giant blender, and they're blended alive on their first day of life, fully conscious. And that's standard practice in the egg industry. I know, it's fucked. It's super fucked.
It's really fucked.
If you could live in a world where you intentionally hurt humans, intentionally hurt animals, or intentionally hurt neither, which world would you like to live in?
Are humans still bad in this scenario?
Yeah, maybe take them off the table. Fuck humans.
Fuck you guys. I mean, like, obviously I want to live in a world where I don't want to hurt anybody. Like, obviously that's the world I want to live in.
I mean, that option is available to you right now.
That's true. That's so true.
So, really cool resource.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation. I know it's a tough one. So if you enjoyed this video and want to help me make this my full-time career, check out my Patreon in the description. And shout out to Ryan O'Neill, Tom Eisenbeiss, Nutbase News, and Matthew Lara.